Welcome back to Website Critiques with Bryan and Chris.
I'm Bryan.
And I'm Chris. This is part 2. We're diving into Natalie's website here. And we just really focused on the homepage. But take a look at this. We were just about to do something else on the computer, and we scrolled up.
Wow. How dare you?
What is that?
Wait,
what is that
Chris.
called, Bryan?
So this is an exit intent pop-up. Very smart on Natalie. I mean, Natalie is doing so much right on this website. We're grasping to pick apart. Like, we're kind of getting into a really advanced critique, I think, on this site, right?
Totally.
Because Natalie's doing a lot right. These exit intent pop-ups are really effective. There's a lot, like, in modern marketing today, there's a lot of, like, negative connotation with, like, this idea of, like, pop-ups and, like, those kinds of things. But you can't argue the facts that the stats, they work.
Yeah.
Like, we know we use it on all of our sites. Natalie's using it. I would suspect that if Natalie wasn't getting people to fill this out, she would stop using it. So it's obviously working. So good on her for doing that. She has an attractive offer in there, which is nice. What were you going to say?
It doesn't say, hey, sign up to my email newsletter to stay updated.
Oh, yeah, good point. Yeah, good.
Right?
Again,
Like, this is the way. This is the way you grab email
Yeah.
addresses.
Yeah.
Just simply putting a little thing saying, subscribe to my newsletter.
Yeah.
There's no reason for them to do it, right? We've talked about that in past episodes. This is how you do it.
Yeah, totally.
You give them some sort of value related to your brand, right? And right here, it's like, would you like to learn more about the secret to getting better photos with your phone? Which is kind of funny.
Yeah.
Because, I mean...
Love it.
But it's kind of a competitor almost to photography, but not really, because high-end photography is high-end photography.
Yeah.
But... that get the course, she gets in there with the email address, she gets to communicate with them, and then she gets to trickle in.
Yeah, and I'm guessing she
marketing.
has a sales funnel that's attached to this. That's going to then obviously try to bring them in, back in to book her as their photographer, or at least build a relationship. Again, if we're getting into advanced critiques here, I would suggest to Natalie, maybe make this feel less daunting. A course sounds big. It sounds like it's a lot of work. It's something you have to go through. There's curriculum. I mean, the word course is kind of a big thought. I love that you started by saying, would you love to learn the secret to getting better photos with your phone? This is super simple. Let me send you a quick tip. Like, if you made it sound really easy, like a low barrier to entry, I think it might feel less daunting than, like, take the course, which feels big.
Yeah, and the button could be, get the tip or get the secret or whatever
Tell
it is.
me now. Like,
Tell me now. Right.
Like
Something really friendly and stuff, and very much, right? So, no, I think she did a good job.
Awesome. Great stuff. Where were we here? I want to talk about something. So in the last episode, you were talking about, could we somehow condense some of these texts? And I just had this last little comment or thought that I know we use a lot on our sites, but I know that Don Miller in Building a Story Brand talks about as well, is using these kind of expandable, collapsible sections. If you want to have text, but you don't want it there by default for everybody, would it be useful to be like, I know that she has a learn more button, but like, would there be, maybe not on this page, but just in general, if you find that you have too much text, which I typically find I have because I like to write, hiding some of the text in collapsible sections for those that want to read it, they can click it. For those that don't want to read it, it's more scannable.
Yeah, great idea.
I don't know if that would work here or not, but just as a general rule of thumb, it might be something you can take away from it.
Yep.
Okay, should we dive into one of these pages?
Let's do it.
Okay, so birth. So one of the first things that I like when I go here is it's changed the title of the page for me, right? So I know that I've gone somewhere different. I know we had that conversation in a previous episode. The URL is simple, which I really like. So obviously from like an SEO standpoint, that's great. I mean, maybe she could go birth dash photography, just again from an SEM standpoint, maybe not. I could take it or leave it. I do like that it updated the nav up here, so I can see that's where I ended up. So I can go back to home. There I go. I can go to birth. I go to the same place. I think your comment earlier on making these stand out a bit more might be, nice. Like, it might show me a bit more clearly where I'm going.
Yeah. I think most people will ignore those little changes, right?
Yeah,
that is part of it. Yeah. Design-wise, like, I just don't like the spacing up here. Like, having this much space before this text, and then having this as just this giant amount of text. I think Natalie's done a really good job in other spots where she's bolded things and broke it out. And like you said in the previous section, or part 1, was designing content, right? So kind of breaking things out and making it scannable and really nice to read. This isn't like that. So I would definitely add something to this, break it out, add some bolding, get rid of the extra space here. I think that'll help a lot. Jumping right into this big slideshow, it's interesting. But if you come down, like, I like this. overall. But again, I feel like this might be a little too much to kind of digest for somebody. And then having the price right there with that book now. But I mean,
it's distracting
I know.
for me.
Yeah, it is distracting, right? It's like if I don't understand the value that you're providing me, that $1,000 might be turning me off before I even figure out that there's actually good value there, right? So I think always be kind of cautious with that, I would say.
Something we teach a lot is this idea of you always have this sort of subconscious transaction happening whenever you exchange money for anything, right? Where it's like you are understanding whether what you're about to pay is worth more than what you're getting in return, right? Like
right.
When we teach it, I call it the get-give principle. But basically, it's this idea of if someone sees the price, $1,000, before they fully understand what they're getting, before they've really had a chance to have their expectations set, before they've had any value built up in their head, before they've fallen in love with the style or what you can do for them, if they see that first before they get that, that might be enough to turn them away.
Of course.
That's a concern, especially because as I come here, initially I'm just gonna go like this and scroll down, and boom, there's that $1,000. It kind of just pops up, and it's like this little pulsing, like I'm expensive kind of thing. And I don't even know if $1,000 is expensive for what I'm getting, but initially $1,000 is no chump change, right? It's
for sure.
A fair bit of money.
Right.
So immediately I'm distracted by that.
Exactly. Yeah.
I'm curious. Like on the homepage, she had this really beautiful way. Closer. This really beautiful way of like laying out this nice story like this. This like, well, sort of like this long form sales page, and I wonder if and just another thought, you should probably have this only pop up like maybe once, because every time I go up there, it keeps coming back up. I almost wonder, like, this is a lot of content, like you said. Could you actually build that into a nice narrative and build it into a vertical scroll instead of a big chunk of content?
Exactly.
Right? Have some images and some stories and stuff as you scroll down, so you can build that value, and then the price could be all the way at the bottom.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I mean, look at this. Working with me, 1, book your birth, 2, coffee date. Like, have that as this beautiful design, like nice big number 1 with like a really easy to read. What are you getting? And what's book your birth? And what's coffee date? And really sell them on this story that you're getting them into.
Yeah.
And then even with this, like, don't just rely on this unless this is at the very, very bottom and you've kind of already told them this and you're just reiterating it. If that's a major point here, all these points that you really want to get across, break them out, put icons, have them long form content, whatever it is, just to really break this up so people are actually reading it and engaging with that. Otherwise, yeah, I totally agree. You can't make the argument that you would read this because most people wouldn't.
Yeah.
The slideshow they've already seen, and they're just seeing the price, and they might just be like, okay, I'm going to check the next person. And they didn't even engage with all this awesome content that you have on the page.
You know, there's this other thought, and again, not to keep using Don Miller, but Don Miller talks a lot about this thing that's called a transitional call to action, which is basically, you know, if you ask the question, will you marry me? If they say no, you say, okay, do you want to go on another date, right? It's kind of like this, this like, if they say no, you give them sort of a fallback option, right? And so when he talks about web design or building sales pages, he talks often about like buy now or this other thing that is sort of this transitional call to action. And right now on Natalie's site, I'm here, it's either book now or not. Like there's nothing else.
Book now or hit the X button.
Yeah,
and never
you know what I
talk to
mean?
me
So it
again,
might be
right?
nice if it was like book now or learn the 5 things that moms who hired a birth photographer wish they did differently, or like, you know what I'm saying? Like there could be some other call to action as sort of a backup to the sort of like give me your money now type of thing.
Yep, exactly. Coming down here, book your birth now. Still have questions.
6 reasons.
Oh,
like,
right there.
Like
Look at that.
post. That's great. Put that up by the book now button.
Sure.
Because that's a good transitional call to action if they're not ready to book now.
Exactly. Yeah. I really love this content. These 2 buttons right here. What one's more important here? Book your birth is way more important. It shouldn't have the same kind of weight as still have questions. It still have questions being there is fine, but I find them they're competing with each other, right?
Totally.
So
and that actually could be the thing we were just talking about. Like that could be the transitional call to action. Like still have questions, but just make it look secondary, right?
Totally. Yeah.
Awesome.
Good.
Thank you for joining us for this episode of Website Critiques. We're going to see you in the next episode where we're going to continue this critique of Natalie's website.